jugo Srijev Gopalako Krishna Kirtana Ganana Tana Paro Premamritam Panidhi Tattvato Namase Samandalapati Sani Sadatu Chama Bhuttvadina Ganesha Karu Karnaya Kopina Kanthasitau Tattvato Namase Samandalapati Sani.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and welcome to this Saturday morning reading and discussion of Bhagavad-gītā As It Is, the original, unedited, as Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu says, unadulterated Gita. And I wanted to show something to you. I just received a Ram Raghava, a present from my friend Abhimanyu here in Hamilton with us. And look at this, Krishna Katha. Look at this Gita. This is a perfect replication of the 1972 Bhagavad-gītā, unchanged and unadulterated. And you can't, I know the light isn't that good, but anyway, I can't, let me show you the cover, hold on. I'm going to read the Gita again. Look at this. That's a perfect representation of the color, even the color, the details of the Gita. And this is a authentic replication of the 72 Gita in hardbound. I told Abhimanyu, I'm going to have to read the Gita again. But congratulations to him. He has 1,200 copies of this book in Russia. It was produced there. And it's a perfect, look, it's even got the beautiful BBT logo on it. And the book is, I have these other books, like you have, Vijay Pandit, I have those. This thing is, oh, is that the original too? Look at that. So you have the same color.
It's the first edition, first printing.
Wow, where did you get that?
I get it in a second-hand shop in the United States many years ago.
Okay, see, so here it is.
By the Mercy.
It's totally reproduced perfectly, the colors, everything.
Yeah.
So we have 12, or
Original.
he has 1,200 of these books, 1,200 of them that he printed. And they're in Russia right now. We're trying to get them over here and help him with the circulation. But I'll just put this down. Hold on. I don't want to damage it. This is real gold. And, you know, it's interesting to note, everyone, that we've been talking about this new enlarged, that's the term that's used, enlarged, revised Bhagavad-gītā by J. Israel. And this is a sign of the times, how Kali Yuga is progressing. So instead of people celebrating this, they're celebrating these new editions that have been changed and altered by people for whatever reason, despite the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. So this is very unfortunate. This is a reflective of the Kali Yuga atmosphere, the Iron Age of quarrel and hypocrisy. And I was looking at some posts just before I came on air, and I could see that people are posting things, oh, the movement has got bigger since Prabhupada's demise or departure. It's bigger, it's more, there are more temples. Actually, this is the perception of some people that quantity is more important than quality. Quality is really what we're looking for. And we, as a group, are reproducing Prabhupada disciples that understand his mission and are not confused by indoctrination. And, you know, in our classes and discussions, we go over the history of the ISKCON movement, yes, just to get a proper education on the facts surrounding how the movement has evolved since 1977 up till 2025. It's not that we're criticizing or fault-finding people, we're clarifying. We're clarifying the reality of the situation by scriptural documentation. And it was interesting that I had a chance on the plane to, someone had recommended this movie, Conclaves, I think that's the name of it. And it's a movie on the selection of a pope, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. It's selection. And I kind of started to watch it, Vijay Pandit, because a lot of it, they speak in Italian in the movie. And I never really understood it. I was raised as a Roman Catholic here in Hamilton. I grew up as a altar boy and helper for the priests and this and that. I've got some startling information recently about priesthood and what they're about. And it's said that a high percentage of these men are gay. They're gay priests. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but the point is that this Christian organization is very, very political and mundane. They talk about the Pope, just briefly, they talk about this Pope in this story that he was drinking excessively. Oh, the pontiff is drinking. And then they have the nuns, they prepare the food for these people, and it's chicken. They show them cooking full chickens and all kinds of other food, so-called food that they eat, which is not anything to do with spiritual life. It's a very superficial, sentimental type of following. They're following these principles of irreligion, but they claim to be religious. And then they have Yaśodā-nandana, a very sophisticated way to elect people, to elect a new pontiff. And it goes through the whole process. So it's quite an interesting look. And there is a lot of parallel in the deterioration of the ISKCON group, how they've become more of a bureaucracy rather than a transcendental movement based on knowledge of hearing from the spiritual master, the purpose of human life. We're looking for purpose. Haraneka from Belarus. We're looking for purpose, yes. Everybody is, or a mission. Why we are existing, what is the purpose? That's a lot of people don't have purpose. They're lost, they're empty. You just have to go around. I've been talking about that. I'm going to, I don't want to go off onto too many subjects here, but there's a big difference between Jnanam and Vijnanam. People, they have knowledge, yes, but do they have realization? Can they see the philosophy when they walk out on the street? Because the philosophy for a good devotee becomes animated. It's real. You see it. I don't say I got all kinds of Vijnanam, but certainly in the airports. Yesterday I made a trip. So you go to the airport, what do you see when you go to the airport? Well, you look there, it's a concentration of human beings. And how do they look, Vijaya Pandit? Well, they look fat. They look very old. So many people are getting wheelchairs so that they can move around in the airport, because the airports are like little towns, very difficult. And they look miserable. And they look lost in this world of illusion. And I'm by myself. I'm traveling by myself. So all I can do is take shelter of the holy name. And at the same time, I'm reading, as you know, I'm reading all these books as I travel. And I finished this yesterday. Nectar of Instruction. This quite an amazing book. It actually talks about Radhakunda at the end. I have an interesting pastime about Radhakunda that I'll relate in the future, of how we all went to Radhakunda, I believe in 1973, under the permission of Srila Prabhupada at the Mayapur Vrindavan festivals, and then we all swam in Radhakunda. But it's a wonderful conclusion to the book. And I wanted to read a section which kind of captivated me yesterday on the plane. How it's called Shruta. Shruta means a very concise explanation of the truth for people that are interested in learning seriously the purpose or mission of human life. You're serious. You're very serious. And Prabhupada very succinctly explains the purpose of life in his purports. And I explained to Abhimanyu this morning, it's the same thing. You're reading it over and over again, but every time you read these books, these unedited, unadulterated books, Vijaya Pandit, do you get new realization? Does it seem like you've never read it before? And that you read it again and it's like the light bulbs go off and you go, gee, I thought I read this. But this is the reality that it's called dynamic. Prabhupada said it's a dynamic, it's not a static discipline. It's a dynamic discipline. That when you read it, it's transcendentally surcharged with spiritual Shakti from the pure devotee. And in this way, Shruta, you get an exact understanding of our philosophy in a few words. You don't have to look. It's fantastic to read these books and study them. But at the same time, even if you just read the 6 Shastakam prayers, Lord Chaitanya was very succinct in his preaching. All of the mysteries of the entire creation are contained in these prayers, which establish a mission for you of what the purpose of life is. It's that easy. Simple, okay? So we're going to read a little section before we move on. And this is from text 8. Let me see if I can get it here. I'll go right. Okay, he's got it. I sent it over to our godbrother, Ram Raghava. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented as follows on this verse. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting and remembering Krishna's and his name, form, quality, pastimes, and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, okay, you have some sort of interest, one should try to live in Vrindavan and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee. So just a quick comment here. You create your own Vrindavan at your home. You create that transcendental atmosphere where you live. And in this way, you live in the spiritual world. This is the sum and substance of all instructions regarding the cultivation of devotional service. Sum and substance, the whole thing. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha, neophyte. This is called Shravana Dasa, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varana Dasa. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. So step by step. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smaranam Vasta, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smaranam. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later, remembrance proceeds interrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceased anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi, or spiritual trance. After smarana dasa, or samadhi, has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. That is called sampati dasa, the perfection of life. Lord Chaitanya Charitamrita advises, we got that? Yeah. Those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative service of the Lord according to the directions of the scriptures. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna, Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and so forth. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna even without following the regulated principles. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service in spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal servants, associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is called Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, can be executed in the Shanta Rasa when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows, or the stick or flute in the hand of Krishna, or the flowers around Krishna's neck. In the Dasya Rasa, one follows in the footsteps of servants like Chitaka, Patraka, and Ratak. In the friendly Shanta Rasa, one can become a friend like Baladev, Sridham, and Sudama. Or in the Vatsalya Rasa, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaj and Yasoda. And in Madhurya Rasa, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani, her lady friends such as Lalita, and her serving maids, Manjaris like Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instruction in the matter of devotional service. Shruta. Just see all these items and the progress that a person can make from going from the neophyte stage to the highest stage of devotional service. And this is captured in this simple purport that Srila Prabhupada has succinctly described for all of us. This is the power of a pure devotee, that he can open your eyes. Om Agyana Timarandasya. He can open your eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, just like that. If you're qualified, if you're really sincere, and if you practice this process, some people think, you have to first develop love for the spiritual master. No, you have to follow the process of devotional service as described here in Nectar of Instruction. And so, all of us here, and I'll wind up here, all of us here, I just read it. You can judge for yourself where you're at. Take a look and make a progressive plan to follow this process step by step throughout your life, and be confident. Be confident that you'll be successful in bhakti yoga and the service of Srila Prabhupada in his Vani incarnation in this one lifetime, and you'll go back home, back to Godhead. Is that clear? Rachisha Devi Dasi? Is there any confusion? No, not in her. She's such a sincere, surrendered person, following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. And our godbrother who went back to Godhead in Montreal, Aprakrita, who was a member of the Prabhupada Disciples Association and stands as one of our examples of a person that took up the process the way that we're explaining it to others, and made it back to Godhead in this lifetime. All glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Let's go forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, and then the reading and discussion with our guest speaker, our regular speaker, the brilliant Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, here at the Prabhupada Disciples Association, Saturday morning Bhagavad-gītā class. And Hari Hari Bol.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yasoda-nandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Swami to Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Swami to Bhaktivedanta ki jai. All glories to the Assembled Lord. All glories to the Assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. From Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskritya. Narayanam namaskritya. Naram chaiva narottamam. Naram chaiva narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad-gītā, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on the Srimad Bhagavad-gītā. This discussion is being conducted on the basis of the original 1972 non-edited, non-adulterated original edition, the Macmillan edition, and as given by Srila Prabhupada in his early lecture series in New York in 1966. We will be proceeding to recite a few selected verses chosen by Srila Prabhupada himself from the beginning of the Bhagavad-gītā. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Dadati Svapadantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahaguna Raghunatan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunath Dasa and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, Srivas, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates Sri Lalita and Vishaka. E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostuti. O my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadara, Sri Vatsadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We will proceed with our selected verses for today. We are reading from Bhagavad-gītā As It Is, chapter number 13, text number 18. Jyotisam apitas jyotis tamasaha paramuchyate jnanam jneyam jnanagamyam hridhi sarvasya vishtitam. Jyotisam, in all luminous objects, api, also, tat, that, jyotihi, source of light, tamasaha, of the darkness, param, beyond, uchyate, is said, jnanam, knowledge, jneyam, to be known, jnanagamyam, to be approached by knowledge, hridhi, in the heart, sarvasya, of everyone, vishtitam, situated. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is object of knowledge and is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the source of light in all luminous objects like the sun, moon, stars, etc. In the Vedic literature, we find that in the spiritual kingdom, there is no need of sun or moon because the effulgence of the Supreme Lord is there. In the material world, that Brahma Jyoti, the Lord's spiritual effulgence, is covered by the Mahatattva, the material elements. Therefore, in this material world, we require the assistance of sun, moon, electricity, etc. for light. But in the spiritual world, there is no need of such things. It is clearly stated in the Vedic literature that because of his luminous effulgence, everything is illuminated. It is clear, therefore, that his situation is not in the material world, is situated in the spiritual world, which is far, far away in the spiritual sky. That is also confirmed in the Vedic literature. Aditya Varnam Tamasaha Parastat. He is just like the sun, eternally luminous, but he's far, far beyond the darkness of this material world. His knowledge is transcendental. The Vedic literature confirms that Brahman is concentrated transcendental knowledge. To one who is anxious to be transferred to that spiritual world, knowledge is given by the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart. One Vedic mantra says, Tam hadevamatma buddhi prakasham mumukshur vesharanamaham prapadye. One must surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he at all wants liberation. As far as the goal of ultimate knowledge is concerned, it is also confirmed in Vedic literature. Tameva viditva timrityumeti. Only by knowing you can one surpass the boundary of birth and death. He is situated in everyone's heart as the supreme controller. The Supreme has legs and hands distributed everywhere. And this cannot be said of the individual soul. Therefore, there are two knowers of the field of activity. The individual soul and the Supersoul must be admitted. One's hand and legs are distributed locally, but Krishna's hands and legs are distributed everywhere. This is confirmed in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Sarvasya Prabhumishanam Sarvasya Sharanam Brihatam. That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supersoul, is the Prabhu, or master of all living entities, and therefore is the ultimate center of all living entities. So there is no denying the fact that the Supreme Supersoul and the individual soul are always different. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasme Sri Gurave Namah. Bhagavad-vandana Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshatah Adadanastrinam Danteridam Yache Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhojadulisyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavato Smyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarabata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Prishta Sat Karomisvam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In the various Vedic literatures and throughout Srila Prabhupada's books and in the Bhagavad-gītā itself, we see that Lord Krishna is recommending that one should develop is attachment and love for him, following in the footsteps of great authorities and great acharyas. And in that way, at the time of departure from this body, one can go back home, back to Godhead. This is confirmed in this text. Actually, what Srila Prabhupada is quoting here, several of the Sanskrit lines in this text are from what's called the Purusha Sukta. Now, in every Veda, there are different versions of the Purusha Sukta. In our Sampradaya, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada has given the Purusha Sukta from the Rig Veda. This is also the same in the Madhva Sampradaya. In the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, they follow the Purusha Sukta from the Yajur Veda. And both of these versions of the Purusha Sukta have the same basic message, which is as given by Srila Prabhupada. Aditya Varnam Tamasaha Parastat. Prabhupada explained, he is just like the sun, eternally luminous, but he is far, far beyond the darkness of this material world. His knowledge is transcendental. Further on in the text, Prabhupada explains in the last paragraph, as far as the goal of ultimate knowledge is concerned, it is also confirmed in Vedic literature, tameva viditva atimrityo meti. Only by knowing him, can one surpass the boundary of birth and death. So this is a very important point. Now, several times as part of these presentations, I've given the example of the departure of two devotees, namely Sudama Prabhu and Jayananda Prabhu. In the case of Sudama Prabhu in 1970, Srila Prabhupada wanted to send a devotee to Japan to start the movement there in Japan. So Srila Prabhupada requested his private personal servant to go to Japan. And the devotee very humbly asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I'm very happy here in Los Angeles serving you. I just want to stay here. And Prabhupada said, yes, that is fine, that is fine. When Sudama Prabhu heard that Srila Prabhupada was looking for someone to go to Japan, he went to Prabhupada himself, paid his obeisances, and told Srila Prabhupada, I'll go to Japan, Prabhupada. I will try to go start the movement for you. And him and his good wife at the time, Chintamani Devi Dasi, went to Japan. And basically what they did is they started the movement there. So when it was time for Sudama to go to the airport, just before he went to the airport, he went and saw Srila Prabhupada, paid his obeisances. And Prabhupada personally embraced him and told him, this story I was told personally by Sudama before he departed in 1994. Prabhupada told Sudama, for you volunteering to go to Japan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself will personally come to you at the time of death and bring you back home, back to Godhead. So that is a very powerful promise from Srila Prabhupada. In the case of Jayananda, it is well known that he was in Los Angeles. This was in late April, May of 1977. And everyone knows the exalted service that Jayananda did for Srila Prabhupada right from the beginning in 1967 in San Francisco, and his legendary service in the Ratha Yatra carts. So in 1977, he was afflicted by some cancer, leukemia. And at the time of his departure, he was hearing the Maha Mantra chanting by Srila Prabhupada. I was in Prabhupada's room in Vrindavan when Srila Prabhupada received the news that Jayananda had departed his body while hearing the Maha Mantra. And Prabhupada at that time was talking to his godbrother, Dr. O.B.L. Kapoor, a disciple of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. It should be noted here that every time Prabhupada came to visit Vrindavan, this O.B.L. Kapoor came to Srila Prabhupada and would meet with Srila Prabhupada in his rooms. They would have many discussions in Hindi, Sanskrit, English. So on this occasion, Srila Prabhupada was explaining to Abil Kapoor that this disciple, Jayananda, went back home, back to Godhead. And Prabhupada started to quote from the Bhagavad-gītā. This is exactly on this topic we're talking about. That verse from the Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 4, text number 9. Ram Raghava, maybe if you can pull that verse. Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 4, text number 9. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyaktva punara janma naiti mam iti so Arjuna. It is explained here by Lord Krishna that for one who knows the transcendental nature, janma karma chame divyam. Now, can you display the text, the English translation of Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 4, text number 9? Anyway, basically what that verse says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvataha. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So this, in Prabhupada, as he finished quoting that verse, he started to cry. And he confirmed to Dr. Kapoor that Jayananda went back home, back to Godhead. Interestingly, I don't know how many people, some of you know this, but Jayananda used to read the Krishna book every day, and he used to write in the margin of the book different little comments in the marginalia. He had studied the Krishna book in considerable depth, in great detail. He was an actual very scholarly devotee, besides being extremely humble and an amazing attitude. Because sometimes devotees will ask, well, are there any examples in this life of devotees who went back home, back to Godhead during Prabhupada's presence? Well, we know at least of two. There's probably many more. And this is a fact. This is promised by Krishna. In other places in Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna explains, Yat gatva tanivartante maddama paramam mama. One who reaches my transcendental abode does not have to come back here again to this material world. That is Krishna's promise. This is the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how to reach that exalted position is given by Srila Prabhupada, is presented by Srila Prabhupada in every line in his books. Prabhupada is requesting, oh, very nice. This is a verse from chapter 8, text number 21 of Bhagavad-gītā. Avyakto ksharati uktas tam ahuhu paramam gatim yam prapya nanivartante taddama paramam mama. That supreme abode is called unmanifested and infallible, and it is the supreme destination. When one goes there, he never comes back. That is my supreme abode. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport goes on to describe the Goloka Vrindavan as described in the Brahma Samhita. What is very interesting here is that this particular topic of reaching the spiritual world, the kingdom of God, or Vaikuntha, or Goloka Vrindavan, this is elaborately described in the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as well as the teachings of the Jiva Goswami, the six Goswamis, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushana, and our most recent Acharya, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our Srila Prabhupada. In other words, the knowledge is there. There is detailed knowledge far beyond any other religious or spiritual tradition in the world. Now, we do not criticize or engage in any defamation of any religion. These particular denominations were presented according to time, place, and circumstances. And the various proponents of these denominations, religious denominations, presented as much as they could, as much as people could understand under these circumstances. Because there are sometimes misconceptions that if you go to heaven, you'll be liberated. Well, according to Bhagavad-gītā and Srimad Bhagavatam and the Vedas, heaven or Svargaloka is not permanent. There's a great level of sense enjoyment, a much longer duration of life, a much greater platform of sense enjoyment. There are so many descriptions in the Vedas, even in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But in the spiritual world, in Vaikuntha, in Goloka Vrindavana, once somebody reaches there, there's a much higher level of transcendental reciprocation. We see in the literatures of the six Goswamis, it is explained the various kinds of rasas one can develop with Krishna. There is no higher literature in this world than the teachings of the six Goswamis. Why? Because that is the direct teaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes some uninformed persons with a poor fund of knowledge criticize Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saying, well, he didn't write a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not write a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. He only gave 8 verses in the Shikshastakam. But Prabhupada one time said in one lecture that the teachings of the Goswamis, for example, Jiva Goswami, the entire written compilation of Jiva Goswami is considered to be 4 lakhs of verses, of Anustup verses. That is more than 400,000 verses. And then in addition to that, there's the writings of Sanatana Goswami, the writing of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the writings of Raghunath Das Goswami. In other words, there is a tremendous amount of literature. Srila Prabhupada explained that the entire literature of the Goswamis is the purport on the Shikshastakam. That's a pretty long, elaborate purport. In other words, there is great depth of transcendental knowledge in this Gaudiya Sampradaya. And Srila Prabhupada has presented the essence of all these great transcendental acharyas, specifically the six Goswamis and Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur Baladev Vidyabhushana. Sometimes devotees ask me, well, is it okay to go read other books of the great acharyas? Prabhupada was asked that question several times. He didn't say no, but his reply every time was, why don't you read first what has been presented here? His books, his writings. Because now, with modern technology and the compilation that has been made by disciples, not only do we have Srila Prabhupada's books, if you're lucky enough to get an original, non-adulterated, non-modified book, assuming you will get that, but then there's the Prabhupada lectures on Bhagavad-gītā. There's the compilation of Prabhupada's lectures on Srimad Bhagavatam. There's 39 volumes of conversations. There are so many. Here we go. This is beautiful. Prabhupada, I've given you everything. So read and speak from the books, and so many new lights will come out. We've got so many books. So if we go on preaching from them for the next 1,000 years, there is enough stock. Prabhupada mentions in a letter, you mentioned you like to speak now very often, but the first business should be to preach to the devotees. It is better to maintain a devotee than to try to convince others to become devotees. It is the duty of the GBC to maintain the devotees, keep them in the highest standard of Krishna consciousness, and give them all good instruction, and let them go out and preach for making more devotees. Your first job should be to make sure that every one of the devotees in your zone of management is reading regularly our literatures and discussing the subject matter seriously from different angles of seeing, and that they somehow or other absorbing the knowledge of Krishna consciousness philosophy. If they are fully educated in our philosophy, and if they can get all the knowledge and study it from every viewpoint, then very easily they will perform tapasya or renunciation, and that will be their advancement in Krishna consciousness. So first thing is to instruct all your temple presidents and the other devotees to read daily, just as we have done in our morning class in Los Angeles. And Srila Prabhupada goes on. The point is, there is another letter Prabhupada wrote in 1970 where he explained to the same author, the same individual, what good are many devotees if none of them are knowledgeable? Why did Prabhupada write all these books and these purports? I had the opportunity on a few occasions to be in Prabhupada's room, more specifically in 1977, when Srila Prabhupada was translating at night. It was not ABCD Sanskrit translation. This was a very deep meditation, devotional meditation. Prabhupada had a very large Sanskrit books, almost 5-7 inches thick, with all the Sanskrit commentaries of the great acharyas. And he would pick the essence of these transcendental commentaries and render them into English. Now, for those of all of us know, to properly study Sanskrit takes 12 years. When I first started to study Sanskrit in Vrindavan in 1976 with Dr. Sharma, he explained to me the actual system was to study 7 days a week, 10 hours a day for 12 years. I said, I don't think I got 12 years. He says, well, just learn the script and then I'll teach you how to pronounce it. And then you read Prabhupada's books. I said, yes, that's a very good idea. Because we see in these transcendental books that Prabhupada is advising, for example, he advises in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that for those interested in devotional service, they should read the book by Sanatana Goswami, Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Then Prabhupada explains in another place when he discusses the biography of Madhvacharya that those who are interested can read Sri Madhva Vijaya. Prabhupada did not forbid the devotees. The problem we have nowadays is we have many people with little knowledge of Sanskrit or Bengali translating books, not in the proper standard that Prabhupada gave, but they translate it many times with a political agenda. Those of you who know the actual controversy about reinitiation that took place in 86, 87, 88, when certain devotees went to books of Jiva Goswami, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, and Narahari Thakur, and they invented this philosophy of reinitiation. Now, there is no such thing as reinitiation or Diksha, Punar Diksha, or any such thing mentioned in our literatures. Now, if one was unfortunate to accept initiation from a non-Vaishnava or a fallen Vaishnava, there are recommendations. But there, first of all, when you look at the list of our acharyas in the Bhagavad-gītā, there is no such thing as a fallen acharya. You will not find acharyas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, bona fide acharyas, authorized acharyas, empowered acharyas, falling down like a common, ordinary man. It never happened. How did they get this idea of reinitiation? It's a concoction. It's a speculation. That is why Prabhupada recommended to read carefully his books, every sentence in his books. In 1976, as the movement was going full swing, Srila Prabhupada told one temple president in Phoenix, Arizona, the problem I have is 85% of the leaders in this movement do not follow the regulative principles. And yet, less than a year later, many of these same leaders were pronouncing themselves on the level of Nikunja Yuno, the sum total of all the demigods and successors to Srila Prabhupada. That is why Prabhupada said, carefully read the books, study the books scrutinizingly. It's interesting many times that devotees, some devotees, not all devotees, some devotees are very quick to engage in straw man arguments. Straw man arguments means inventing an argument that was never made by somebody else and then trying to proceed to defeat it. Now, that's a technique for persons with a poor fund of knowledge. That is not a very high-class way of discussing philosophy. Another technique is simply to personally attack the other person, engage in personal attacks. That we have seen many times, without really dealing carefully with the issue, without carefully analyzing all the facts. It's like you can't just walk into a court of law and telling the judge, oh, he's this, he's that, he's a bad person, he smells bad. That doesn't work. The court wants to hear both sides of an issue, not just false personal attacks. And this is the difficulty with the current climate of many so-called discussions taking place. Too many personal attacks without looking at all the facts, without looking at all the evidence. Never mind that right in the beginning of these controversies in 1978, some of these individuals said, there is nothing to be discussed. We have already discussed everything. Oh, really? And what was your conclusion? Your conclusion seems to be very different than the conclusion given by Srila Prabhupada, our current Acharya. Thank you very much. I'll shut up and we'll continue these discussions at some other time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Life of Srila Prabhupada as experienced directly by you and shared to us so that we can also understand some of the transcendental facts in regards to how Srila Prabhupada wanted to conduct his affairs and our affairs in the process of surrendering to Krishna. And more specifically, the greatest example of surrender was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who demonstrated the highest level of detachment and absorption in Krishna consciousness, being that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who manifested himself as the Yuga avatar for our benefit. And this Sankirtan movement that we are part of is a reflection of the mission that he created for all of us. And I wanted to go to the Bhagavad-gītā, to the purport today. There's specifically a point here I wanted to. Our Vedic mantra says, Tam ika devam atma buddhi prakasham mumuksha vai sharanam aham prapadye. One must surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he at all wants liberation. Surrender. This is the essence of human life, is to surrender to the Supreme Authority, Krishna. And in the case of Sudama, and Jayananda, and Aprakrita, these three personalities, their business was to surrender body, mind, everything that they had, their money, their time, to the service of the spiritual master. This is the essence, surrender. It is not simply words that are spoken, but it's a practice that we have to follow. Words are easy. Words are cheap. Anybody can say, I'm surrendered. But actions speak louder than words. And that is the bottom line. We can remember, Prabhu, that years ago, especially as young men, when we joined the movement, we had surrendered everything that we had. We had nothing anyway. We had surrendered everything that we had and took up the service of Srila Prabhupada. I can remember there's a picture of us in Toronto at the Toronto Temple in the Brahmachari ashram upstairs. And they had built these cabinets. They were little square boxes like this. And I think there was 18 of them in the room. And there was 18 men living on the third floor of a small house on Gerrard Street, 187 Gerrard Street. And everybody's possessions, that was about the size of a BTG box. I know you might not know that, many of you, because the BTGs are no longer distributed like they were back then. Actually, the BTG back then, I think we were selling 500,000 BTGs a month. Can you imagine? So everybody had a BTG box. And we all put our clothes in there, a couple of culpins. You know, you ripped out an old garment, and you got a couple of pieces of cloth for your culpins, and you had a couple of polyester dhotis or kurtas, and a few little items for the kitchen or for the bathroom, you know, your toothbrush and that. And that was it. You had no possessions. A little pair of flip-flops. Was everybody happy? Extremely. Extremely. Someone would think, oh, if you renounce everything, you'll be unhappy. Actually, it's a cause of burden to become involved in the material world and all the paraphernalia that you have. And all of us, especially as you grow up and become established and get money and this and that, you get all kinds of items everywhere, Neil Sharma? Your whole life is items. This, that, this, that, this, that, this, that. And people hoard, actually. Oh, I've got to have this, I've got to have that. But this state of material possession, this state of material attachment to money, people are so attached to their money. They think, oh, I've got this money, I'll be happy, I'll be secure. Do they surrender it? Are they interested in surrendering the money? No, most people don't. They may have a few $1 million in the bank, but that's a representation of their material success and their material attachment. Millions. Oh yeah, and do they give it up? No. There's so much examples. They're attached to family, the fallible soldiers. People surround themselves with these fallible soldiers. It's like a fortress. They got the house, they got their car, they got their kids, they got their grandkids, they got their brothers, they've got their sisters, and they sit in this environment and they feel secure. But fallible soldier, that's an illusion. Because death can come at any moment. I was mentioning to Abhimanyu just now before the class, I said, you know, people think that they're not going to get diseased. But the nature of the body, just look at it. Look at your hands. Just take a look at them. Do you think this thing is perfect? This body made of blood, pus, stool, and urine is going to just carry on and live for eternity? No. For one who is born, death is certain. And for one who has died, birth is certain. We are in a cycle of birth and death. That's what we are. And time is erasing our opportunity to surrender to Krishna. And this is unfortunate because we have opportunity. This is Krishna consciousness, the opportunity to surrender everything, which is worth nothing in this universe, for the opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead in one lifetime. Can you imagine? Is that possible? It's so rare. And Krishna consciousness is very rare. But it is available in this time and place through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada. Very rare. We're going to go to a most important verse in the Bhagavad-gītā from the 18th chapter, which talks about surrender. And Krishna describes it very, very succinctly in this verse. Sarva, and it's a very famous verse that everyone in India that's a devotee knows. Sarva dharman parijyaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sava papebhyo moksha yashami ma suchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. It's defining personality here. The individual and the Supreme Person. So Krishna is demanding in a very pleasant way, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Give up everything in the service of the Lord. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. So that's his promise. It's not a one-sided relationship. It's two-sided. Just like every relationship, there's give and take. So Krishna is saying, if you surrender the petty material world and everything that you have in it for my service, I'll take you back to Godhead. This may be very hard for us to comprehend in this stage, but nonetheless, the promise is still there. The Lord has described various kinds of knowledge, processes of religion, knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, knowledge of the Supersoul, knowledge of the different types of orders, and statuses of social life, knowledge of the renounced order of life, knowledge of non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation, etc. He's described so many different types of religion. Now, in summarizing Bhagavad-gītā, the Lord says that Arjuna should give up all the processes that have been explained to him. He should simply surrender. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions, for the Lord personally promises to protect him. So this is Krishna's mercy unto the conditioned soul. It's that simple. But is it easy to surrender? Not when you're attached. It becomes very difficult. And this world is the world of the fallible soldiers, where you think you'll be happy if you accumulate all of this fortress of protection. And what is going to happen at the time of death, Dharma Bhavana? How will you find some solace at the time of death? That your wife will sit there and hold your hand? Oh, I'll hold your hand while you die. The solace of Krishna consciousness is surrender every day and contemplate how we, as devotees of servants of Srila Prabhupada, can engage ourselves effectively in devotional service. And that is the mission, the purpose of the Prabhupada Disciples Association. Please, we are not a sectarian group. We're non-sectarian. We're not in the guru business. No, we're not. We're in the preaching business. And I want to say this before I go to the next section of our program. We're very proud of all of you. Yes. And your participation in this Sangha, this discussion, reading and discussion, is a source of enthusiasm and inspiration for all of us. Because some people are serious about the truth. They want it. Just like when we all joined the movement, we were only interested in one thing, the truth. That's all we wanted. To find out the truth, to find out the purpose of life, and to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and serve him without any personal motive, just to serve. Because that's life, love. In the material world, you see kids being served by their parents. I was watching a couple yesterday at the airport, and the mother had a young son, and she was holding the son and rubbing his head in love and affection. Because the relationship between a mother and their children is the easiest way to understand love on the material platform and how it should be performed on the spiritual platform. She's rubbing her son's head and scratching his neck, and she's so in love with him. So, like that, we have to serve our spiritual master and the mission of Lord Chaitanya without motive, selflessly. That is love. You serve selflessly. And how long do you serve, Dharma Bhavana? If you're hoping to get some level of Krishna consciousness, how long should you serve? Well, Prabhupada asked us, well, at least do one lifetime. Your whole life. And someone would say, well, geez, that's a long time. Can you remember that, Dharma Bhavana, when you heard that when you were 25? My whole lifetime, that's a long time. Now you're 75. Is that a long time? Look at you. Sorry, I'm not trying to target you. We're all in the same situation. How long will it be? Well, it's going to be like that, buddy. Like turning on and off of a switch. Before you know it, you're gone. I was just in a situation in Mexico, and we've talked about this. That my friend Gopal, he had created this paradise down there called Krishna Casa Goloka. I told him it should be Casa Gokula, but okay, we get the idea. And then all of a sudden, around November, his health started to deteriorate. Now, Paul was an active guy, Gopal. He used to ride bike. He didn't own a car. He used to drive a bike. And he was strictly a vegetarian pretty much of his adult life. So he was following rules, in a sense, of health. And somewhat physically fit. Yes, absolutely, all his life. And then all of a sudden, cancer of the liver, cancer of the lungs, and cancer of the colon. My God. And then we watched him deteriorate before our eyes. It's terrible. And but he never imagined that he was going to die. And actually, while he was going through his end-of-life experience, I was with him, watching him see it unfold vividly, week after week. It was terrible. But this is the nature of the material world. You never know how long you're going to live. You don't. But in illusion, you think I'll live on. I know it. I'm not speaking from philosophical book knowledge. If you study these books and then you live life in Krishna consciousness, you can see it right in front of your eyes. You can deny it. But this is your foolishness, not anyone else's. Because people live in denial. That's what they do. They live in denying the truth of the matter for whatever reason, based on false ego, which is very hard to overcome for all of us. That we can be the enjoyer. We are the knower. And we are going to live on without any interference. But before you know it, the life is snuffed out of you. And all of a sudden you're dust to dust. And then they just throw your ashes on the ground. So that's material world. We have a great opportunity here to surrender. Do people like to hear that term, Ram Raghava? You've got to surrender. Actually, most people are revolted by it. What do you mean? What do you mean I have to surrender? Well, if you don't, you'll have to surrender anyway, because the forces of eternal time will make you surrender. There is no alternative. And we have a great opportunity. Being in the disciplic succession from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this bona fide line of gurus up to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, present, personally present right now in his Vani incarnation. Oh yes. And Prabhupada's knowledge comes to life with us as we hear from him in his lectures, in his conversations. I have a set of books here, 37 volume set of books of Prabhupada's conversations. We have the Gita, we have Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, all kinds of other books. You can spend a whole lifetime in this opportunity to become Krishna conscious by the mercy of the pure devotee in his Vani incarnation. And this is Krishna consciousness in reality. So let's take advantage of it. And very recently, we've been doing a program, part of our program, a review of the biography of Srila Prabhupada by one of our godbrothers. And it was an unauthorized biography. And in it, there's a lot of misinformation, let's say indoctrination, that was put into the biography about Prabhupada being like a regular human when he's a transcendental messenger from Lord Chaitanya. And we're going to move to this section with Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, and he's going to read it for our benefit. Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you very much for that. We are reading from the Lilamrita Review, section number 3, page number 15 and 16. On page number 15, we are quoting from the Lilamrita, book number 2, page 96. By nightfall, he would have to find a place to stay, a way to keep up the momentum of his preaching. This is what it meant to be working without government sponsorship, without a patron. It meant being vulnerable and insecure. And in the next page, on page 16, we were reading some of Prabhupada's comments in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 4, further down, please. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 1, chapter number 12, text number 16, Prabhupada explains, such transcendental literatures, missionaries and representatives of the Lord are spotlessly white, because the contamination of the material qualities cannot even touch them. They are always protected by the Lord, even when they are threatened with annihilation. Then Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain in Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 18, text 58, a person in full Krishna consciousness is not unduly anxious to execute the duties of his existence. The foolish cannot understand this great freedom from all anxiety. For one who acts in Krishna consciousness, Lord Krishna becomes the most intimate friend. He always looks after his friend's comfort, and he gives himself to his friend who is so devotedly engaged, working 24 hours a day to please the Lord. Krishna is a person. He personally looks after his devotee and personally protects his devotee in all ways. The pure devotee never seeks anyone else's shelter. We may think that we are giving the spiritual master our essential assistance, but that is our own misconception. He is actually only engaging us, and that is helping us towards taking full shelter of him. The bona fide spiritual master is never unprotected, insecure, or unsettled. He can never be compared to a bum. Hold on here. Lilamrita offers that his divine grace was destitute and pitiably desperate. From Lilamrita, book number 1, page 164, when Abai arrived, he appeared very poor, starving. He had no means. Lilamrita, book number 1, page 164. Abai told him how his business had failed and how he had willingly left his family and was now destitute. Lilamrita, book number 1, page 188. Despite his desperate poverty. Webster's dictionary defines destitute as suffering extreme want, desperate. The pure devotee may appear destitute or desperate to the common man, but this is actually never his real position. His Divine Grace writes on the matter from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 8, text 127. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explains that a mundane person being enriched by mundane opulences must always know that the transcendental opulences of the advanced devotee are far more important than the materialistic opulences of a person like himself. Back to you in the studio. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yes, very interesting and very important to understand Prabhupada's position as the pure devotee messenger from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for everyone's benefit. We're going to go to Ram Raghava right now in the studio, one of our satellite studios. We have people from all around the world working on this broadcast, by the way. And we want to thank them very much. And if you're interested in participating with us, please be in touch, send us a message. And if you've got some specific talents, we're always looking for people to take up the service. Ram Raghava, how many people watching on YouTube right now?
Hare Krishna. So there were up to 17 people. Right now there are 14 people watching.
Any questions that came up?
No question right now, except for the one when they were asking about where they can find a bona fide database.
Well, hopefully they've got some books or whatever, they can read them. That's what I do, I read. We're going to go to Dharma Bhavana in Dallas, Texas. Dharma Bhavana, maybe you could share some insight.
Oh, okay. Krishna, yeah, thank you. During the class today, we talked a little bit about the, different types of ways that Krishna helps his devotee. Now, I was remembering the first time I went to the Sunday feast, I asked Bir Lakshman Prabhu some questions. And if we could go to Bhagavad-gītā chapter 6, text 41. And he explained to me, my main question was that what happens if a yogi devotee is practicing for maybe some time or the whole lifetime, it doesn't become perfect, isn't able to complete the process. And he explained to me that that is not a problem, that happens sometimes because we've been in the material world forever. We're eternally conditioned souls, so it takes Bahunam Janamananti, maybe many lifetimes, or even though it should be in one lifetime for us because we have special mercy of Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya. But it says in this verse that there's, for the yogi who is of short practice, maybe he's not that advanced or complete, then he goes to the heavenly planets because he's on the path, and Krishna gives him this chance to enjoy in the heavenly planets and also take up devotional service again. But the very special, most important consideration is the devotee who's very, very advanced, but still not perfect. And at the time of death, he takes birth in a family of Vaishnavas, where from his very, very young age, he can see the deities being dressed, to be around saintly people, hearing the glories of the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So I just take from this whole situation that Krishna is very kind and understanding. He's always asking us to do our best, but in this material world, which is so we're so conditioned, it takes some time to become perfect. So I was just kind of that's all I have to read. Thank you, Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Maybe we have a question for Yaśodā-nandana from Neela Sharma in Florida. Hare Krishna, Neela Sharma.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Prabhupada. Wonderful to know again a lot of things from Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. I'd like to share one letter which I would love Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu to kind of comment on. This is a letter by Prabhupada to Karandhara, and he talks about many points which are violated today by ISKCON proper. And I would like to bring this to everybody's attention here, is that look at this particular part. Regarding your point about taxation, corporate status, etc., I have heard from Jayatirtha, you want to make big plan for centralization of management, taxes, monies, corporate status, bookkeeping, credit, like that. I do not at all approve of such plan. Do not centralize anything. Look at this. Do not centralize anything. Each temple must remain independent and self-sufficient. That was my plan from the very beginning. Why are you thinking otherwise? Once before you wanted to do something centralizing with your GBC meeting, and if I did not interfere, the whole thing would have been killed. Do not think in this way of big corporation, big credits, centralizations. These are all nonsense proposals. And Prabhupada continues on with that part. And the other one which I wanted to bring to our notice over here is about the leaders not observing. You see, over here, Prabhupada talks about, where did it go? Yeah, right here. This part. I'm a little observing now, especially in your country, that our men are losing their enthusiasm for spreading on our programs of Krishna Consciousness movement. Otherwise, why so many letters of problems are coming dissatisfied? That is not a very good sign. The whole problem is they are not following the regulative principles. That I can detect. Without this, enthusiasm will be lacking. Even mechanically following, if he gets gradually understanding from the class, he will come to the point of spontaneous enthusiasm. Look at this. Even mechanically following. So we may not feel that, but we are still following in his footsteps. He gets gradually understanding from the class. He will come to the point of spontaneous enthusiasm. This spontaneous loving devotional service is not an easy matter, but if one simply sticks strictly to the rules and regulations like rising early, chanting 16 rounds, chanting Gayatri, keeping always clean, then his enthusiasm will grow more and more. And if there is also patience and determination, one day he will come to the platform of spontaneous devotion, then his life will be perfect. So I would love to know what Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu has to say about this.
Well, it seems to be self-explanatory, self-evident. I don't really have much to say. I mean, by hearing this, we see Prabhupada's plan for his mission, for his society. If people deviate from that plan or try to change that plan, there will be a problem. It's as simple as that. I mean, this is a very relevant letter, and thank you very much for bringing it up, because occasionally what we do is we get comments from people saying, who do you think you are? You're this, you're that, you're not qualified. You're, in other words, an avalanche of personal attacks without dealing with the issue. In Latin, in law, it's called argumentum ad hominem. Argumentum ad hominem means you attack the person without dealing with the substance of the argument or the presentation. Anybody can attack anybody without knowing the facts. That's easy. You can make some accusation, some false accusation against somebody. I mean, even during Prabhupada's manifested presence, there were many leaders who had personal problems. I don't want to give names. I mean, we do know what Prabhupada did. He advised them. He very kindly, mercifully excused them, engaged them in the society, and then they did some service for the mission of Srila Prabhupada, for the mission of Lord Chaitanya. But engaging in personal attacks and saying, who do you think you are? You were like this, you did this, you did that. Okay, fine. What is the issue, though? This is a technique to avoid dealing with the issue. And this is very important. I mean, it's very nice here. You say, argumentum ad hominem is a logical fallacy that occurs when an argument's validity is judged based on the person presenting it rather than the argument's merits. And we see this on Facebook regularly with people attacking people like ISKCON Bangalore or this other group in Singapore, launching all kinds of outlandish accusations, most of whom are false, and not dealing with the substance of the argument. Prabhupada is presenting everything. All the solutions are given. All the knowledge is given. How to follow, how to practice. All we have to do is simply to submissively hear. Hare Krishna.
Yes, that's as simple as it is. And it's simple for the simple, difficult for the crooked. That's as succinct as you could be. If you don't want to take this up, don't do something else. Time is something that we possess. It's our most valuable possession, and the use of our time is a great opportunity for us to make advancement, especially in the human form of life, in association with Prabhupada disciples, in the disciplic succession from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And thank you, everyone, for participating today. Ram Raghava, yes, your hand is up, please.
Hare Krishna, thank you. I have a question about something that was read from Nectar of Instruction earlier, and I'll tell you why I'm asking. First, I'll read it. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna even without following the regulative principles. So the question I wanted to ask was, back in the 90s, I had some association with a few senior Vaishnavas in the Atlanta temple and some sannyasis. And there's one sannyasi who has become a very, very prominent figure, has a lot of followers. And I noticed over a period of 2 days, I spent like over 36 hours. I noticed that those leaders, they had time to attend a computer conference, they had a time to do other things, but they did not chant their 16 rounds, and they did not attend Mangalarti. And when I approached another devotee who happened to be the president of the Calcutta temple at that time, he told me that he had actually, this issue had come up with that particular sannyasi about not chanting the rounds, not attending the morning program. And he had actually approached him. And the answer he was given was based on something like this. So if you could please clarify, because his answer was that an Uttama-Adhikari doesn't have to follow any rules and regulations because they can spontaneously perform devotional service. So if you could please comment on that.
I'll make a comment. You know, people want to extract these. Yaśodā talks about cherry pick these quotes and apply them to themselves. This is the business of the neophyte, people that are not advanced in spiritual life. They could be from, different walks of life, different, like a lot of people from America who join the movement. And after a few years, they think, oh, well, I'm so advanced, I don't have to follow these principles. This is all just mental concoction, mental speculation, and strictly illusion that you think that you've become so advanced in such a short period of time that now you don't have to chant your rounds. Well, this isn't the example that Prabhupada set for us. And if you look at Prabhupada's photos, thousands of them, you'll see he's always got his bead bag with him. And he is always chanting the holy names and always engaged in attending all of the programs. When Prabhupada came to Toronto, he would come down in the morning after finishing his work. He started in the morning at early hours. He only slept a few hours. And I can still remember him coming in front of the deities and offering his obeisances. And we open the doors and play the Govindam Adi Purusham song. Prabhupada would get down and full dandavats in front of the deities, and then he would get up, and then we would go and he'd sit down in the Vyasasana, and we would go through the Guru Puja prayers. I was honored to be able to sing them to him on multiple occasions. And then Prabhupada would sit there and conduct the Bhagavatam class with us and give all the example of a pure devotee totally surrendered despite his exhaustive schedule of travel and hard work. So these people that do this, that's to their confusion. They're just, and look, just think about it, Bhakta Richie. Where are they now? Huh? Where are they now? Thank you. Well done. They are no longer involved. I was just talking to Abhimanyu. He goes, nobody knows where Bali Mardan is. Where the heck is he? He's gone. Where is Karandar? Nobody knows where Karandar is. He became a Buddhist or something. These people come, they get involved, they don't chant their rounds, they don't practice the process of devotional service, and bye-bye. Like a odor in the wind. It comes and it goes. That's all it was. Yaśodā-nandana, a last few comments before we move to the next section.
I think you're making some very good points. And as we've said many times on this program, we do not engage in criticism of other devotees. What we are all about here is fact-finding instead of fault-finding, because it's important that there cannot be a climate of suppression and oppression of devotees, that you can't discuss this, you can't discuss that, and it's offensive to talk about this, and it's a blasphemy to talk about that. This is the same technique that was used early on in 78, 79 to suppress and oppress any devotees that wanted to bring legitimate question and inquiries about what was going on. There was an avalanche of criticism. Oh, you're all dissenters, you're all envious, you're all in Maya. And then it escalated to the point of threats of beating, threats of assassination, to the point that one devotee in 1986 was assassinated over this exact issue, that you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that. This is nonsense. We do not subscribe to this idea. Now, as part of this program, occasionally we've mentioned different groups or different devotees. It is not a personal attack. It is meant for discussion, for fact-finding, not fault-finding. I want to bring up a very important point of a quote I put over here. This was discussion from Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan on December 10th, 1975. And a devotee said, I was recently told by one devotee that the Acharya does not have to be a pure devotee. Prabhupada, who is that rascal? Who said, who is that rascal? The Acharya doesn't have to be a devotee. Disciple, Nitai said it. He says that Lord Brahma is the Acharya of the Brahma Sampradaya, but yet is sometimes afflicted by passion. So therefore, he is saying that it appears that the Acharya does not have to be a devotee. Prabhupada, he manufactured his idea, therefore he's a rascal. Therefore he's a rascal. Nitai has become an authority. Disciple, no, actually, he said that he thought. Prabhupada, he thought something rascaldom, and he's expressing that, therefore he's more rascal. These things are going on. As soon as he reads some books, he becomes Acharya, whatever rascal he may be. These things are to be seen in this way, that such an exalted person, sometimes become passionate. So how much we shall be careful. That is the instruction. It is not that the Acharya has become passionate, therefore I shall become passionate. I am strict follower of the Acharya, these rascals say. So this is a very important point for all of those who claim that Acharyas fall down, Acharyas become deviant, Acharyas become embezzlers, Acharyas become child molesters or rapists or whatever. These are all nonsense ideas. As a matter of fact, in the Nectar of Devotion, there is a place where Srila Prabhupada explains that sometimes it is seen that a person without proper authorization, without proper authority, becomes a spiritual master. And Prabhupada says a bona fide spiritual master will never become like that, because these people were never properly authorized as Diksha Gurus. There is no mention in the last few months of Srila Prabhupada's manifested presence of Prabhupada ever appointing, nominating, selecting, choosing any Diksha Guru. The only position they were given was of officiating representative. That's all. They concocted. Oh, this is very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Not, put it down a little further down. One should not give up anything. Okay, here we go. This does not mean, however, that we should give up the principles of discharging devotional service or neglect abiding by the rules and regulations prescribed therein. In the neophyte stage of devotion, one must follow all the principles regulated by the authority of the spiritual master. The acceptance and rejection of things should always be in pursuance of the devotional principles, not that one can independently manufacture some idea of what should be accepted or rejected. The spiritual master, as the visible manifestation of Krishna, is necessary, therefore, to direct the devotee on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual master must never be carried away by an accumulation of wealth or large number of followers. A bona fide spiritual master will never become like that. But sometimes, if a spiritual master is not properly authorized and only on his own initiative becomes a spiritual master, he may be carried away by an accumulation of wealth and large number of disciples. His is not a very high grade of devotional service. If a person is carried away by such achievements, then his devotional service becomes slackened. One should therefore strictly adhere to the principles of disciplic succession. This is very clear and also like a natural commentary to what Ram Raghava Prabhu was talking about. very important instruction from Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, thank you very much. And this point, Ram Raghava, of not following the regulated principles and them, certain people accepting that as their license to do anything that they want, is heresy. That's what it is. And the fact is, and I thought that letter that you brought up, Neil Sharma, was very relevant to today's class, where Prabhupada was talking about centralization of the movement, how he didn't want that because he wanted everything to remain independent. That was destroyed by the management system that he had put in place and the ambition of those people. And what happens when that type of deviation goes on, Ram Raghava, there becomes a systematic system of cover-up. This is how people try to protect their own personal motives with cover-up. In other words, misinformation, lying, calculated method for hiding the truth from the ordinary plebeians, the ordinary people. We'll just hide it from them. We'll lie, we'll cheat, we'll do anything we can to protect our business, the guru business. And this is going on in the name of Lord Chaitanya's movement. And this, nowadays, Prabhus, it's completely gone insane. Cover up. It's a tragedy that is very hard for us to accept. And in some cases, tolerate. So much information. We have all the proof from the Shastra. Neil Sharma, just quickly, because we're going to end up the program. It's 11:56. Yeah. Go ahead.
I wanted to address the question which Ramaragha Prabhu has asked about Raganuga Bhakti and Raga Bhakti. And I would like to share something over here. And here it is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 22, verse 49.
Yep.
We talk about the original inhabitants of Vrindavana are attached to Krishna spontaneously in devotional service. Nothing can compare to such spontaneous devotional service, which is called Ragatmika Bhakti or Raga Bhakti. When a devotee follows in the footsteps of the devotees of Vrindavana, this devotional service is called Raga Anuga Bhakti. Anuga means following. So we are following people who are in Raga Bhakti. So Raga Nuga Bhakti and Raga Bhakti. And Prabhupada says so nicely over here, when a pure devotee follows in the footsteps of a devotee of Vrindavana, he develops Raga Nuga Bhakti. And Raga Nuga Bhakti is the stepping stone towards Raga Bhakti. So until and unless we are not into Raga Nuga Bhakti, we cannot reach Raga Bhakti. Wonder what Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu has to say, and Prabhupada tells us, is always guiding us to go through the Raganuga Bhakti. Don't go through the Raga Bhakti because we are incapable of that, because we are not already in the pure devotional state. We are still conditioned also following the Raganuga Bhakti, which will lead us to the Raga Bhakti stage.
Well, we'll carry on tomorrow with Srimad Bhagavatam, because we're reaching 11:57 in Hamilton time, Eastern Standard Time, and I've noticed that, and we're thinking about this, by the way, and it's part of our idea to expand our preaching work online with everybody, because there is a real interest in philosophy of Krishna consciousness amongst all of us and others, and we might continue to expand our program rather than diminish it. And then people that come to the program can stay, like we're over the time. Our schedule is an hour and a half, but we're at almost 2 hours. Those that want to stay, by all the means, do it. If you've got schedule you have to go, or you can come back to the channel later and on Hare Krishna Society YouTube channel and hear the discussions that go on amongst the Vaishnavas, and as we delve into the details, the intricate details of the philosophy to get ourselves fixed up in devotional service and surrender. This is a process, Nila Shama, of surrendering and working cooperatively with a group like this, not like this group, to protect Prabhupada's legacy with everything that you have in your capacity. And then you'll get Vijnanam, some realization. So this is practical. Anyway, we'll move forward with the next section of our program, which is the chanting of Hare Krishna led by Srila Prabhupada, Kirtan. And then after, we'll have our closing remarks. So you can see all of the centers, preaching offices that we have, if you're interested in being one of those for distribution of books as they're going to start to come out. And all the people that donated to this program, we appreciate that as very, very much for the book publication specifically. And like that, there'll be a chant along with it from the devotees in Jamaica that we made. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow morning for Srimad Bhagavatam class from the Delhi Bhagavatams at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's move forward with the Kirtan. Shama, Ram Raghava, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaham. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks, everybody, for your participation in this lively reading and discussion. We invite all of you to join us tomorrow morning for Srimad Bhagavatam class at 7 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. Thanks, Vishwakarma Prabhu from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, Ram Raghavan from Brighton, Georgia, Richisa Devidasi de la Belle Province de Quebec, Vijay Pandit from Douaeville, Italy, Neil Sharma Prabhu from Florida, Krishna Kata from San Diego, Bhaktin Veronica from Italy, Shiv Narayanan Prabhu from Japan, Triloka Vijay from Alachua, Florida, and Michael Dillon from Yuba City, California, Anda Bahya Mataji from North Carolina, and everybody participating. Rupa Goswami Prabhu from Bombay, India. Thanks everybody for participating, and think of various topics and put more questions tomorrow. We look forward to seeing all of you, and please stay with us for about a minute or two. I don't know exactly how long this kirtan is. Maybe Rangavagrava can tell us. The
2.5 minutes.
Oh, very good. Kirtan with the Jamaican Vaishnav devotees. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Bala Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Bala Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Bala Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama